Okay, in this movie, we're going to continue our examination of conditionals that have multiple conditions in them. So taking a look at our conditional statement, it says that if Jane plays the guitar or the piano, then Jane plays an instrument. So how do we interpret this? Well, what it means is that either element in the sufficient condition works as a guarantee. So we have that here in our diagram. We have guitar or piano, followed by an arrow, followed by instrument. And either one by itself, guitar or piano, could be found with a necessary condition. Having just one of the elements means that the necessary condition has to follow. And that's why we have underneath that line, we have two different conditionals. We have guitar, if guitar then instrument, or if piano then instrument. So if we're told that Jane plays the guitar, then we don't have to know whether or not she plays the piano. We know right away that she plays an instrument. We know that the necessary condition is true. Another way of thinking about it is that having an or in the sufficient condition is the same as having two conditionals joined by or. So, if the necessary condition isn't met, neither one of the elements in the sufficient condition can be true. Now, if the necessary condition isn't true, that means that neither of the things that were supposed to guarantee it are true. And that's why we have here the contrapositive. We switched and negated, and we put an and where we had an or. If we're told that Jane doesn't play an instrument, then we know that she doesn't play either the guitar or the piano. So she doesn't play the guitar and she doesn't play the piano. If we were to say that she doesn't play the guitar or she doesn't play the piano, that would mean something else. That would mean that she does play one of them. So since both of these were guarantees that she plays an instrument, if we know that she doesn't play an instrument, then neither of the things that guaranteed that she played an instrument could be true. Okay, let's take a look at this conditional statement. It says, if Ang works in that building, then he's an engineer or he's a journalist. So how do we interpret this? Well, if the sufficient condition is true, either element in the necessary condition could be true. So the sufficient condition is a guarantee for either one of the two elements. And we can think of it as two separate conditionals joined by or. And that's why we have here in our diagram, we have building followed by an arrow followed by engineer or journalist to symbolize the above conditional. But we also have it as two different conditionals. If building then engineer, or if building then journalist. So if we're told that Ang works in the building, then we know that he's either an engineer or a journalist, but we don't know which one. The point is that one has to be true. And if it helps, you can think of the conditionals as actually two different conditionals joined by or. Now, if neither of the elements in the necessary condition are true, then the sufficient condition can't be true. At least one of the requirements must be met for the sufficient condition to maybe be true, so both need to be negative in order for the sufficient condition to be false, which is why we have in our contrapositive, we have not engineer and not journalist, followed by an arrow, followed by not in the building. So if we're told that Ang isn't an engineer, we can't conclude that he doesn't work in the building, since maybe he's a journalist. We need to know that he's not an engineer and not a journalist before we can conclude that he doesn't work in the building, because our original condition says that if he works in the building, he has to be one of those two. A requirement for him to work in the building is to work as an engineer or journalist. Since not meeting one part of that requirement means that he may meet the other part, we need to say that he doesn't meet both parts for a contrapositive to be correct. So, to recap, a conditional statement can have more than one element in the sufficient or more than one element in the necessary condition joined by or. And when negating an or, you need to turn it into an and.